In this month's BRM, we've got some really nice work on the scenery of Barmouth Junction. And one of the features that really stood out for us was the hedges. So we thought we'd have a look at how you make hedges for a model railway. All railway lines in the UK, apart from light railways, are fenced in at the sides, and hedges are of course incredibly popular, and we see hedges everywhere, alongside the roads, alongside our gardens, that sort of thing. And the simplest way to do some hedges is quite simply to buy some pre-made ones. So here we are. This is a pack of hedging from Gauge Master, and here's my little scene. These great long furry snakes, best described. Hedges. All you need: a bit of PVA glue and push the hedge firmly into the glue. You might want to hold it, perhaps put a little bit of weight on it, and there we are, job done. That was quick, wasn't it? Well, you want some more? You want me to do more of this sort of thing? Okay, right, let's be honest. This is a really nice garden hedge, but in areas where topia isn't their speciality and they look a bit more rough and ready, there's quite a lot more work we can do on these sort of things. So that's before the glue dries. The first thing is that, let's be honest, this has been cut out of a machine. It's really neat and tidy, but we can fix that with a pair of scissors. Now, it's worth taking a look at real hedges before you start hacking away. I'm a bit rough and ready with this, but hedges have changed over the years. Get out there and you'll notice that a lot of hedges beside the roads have been cut with a flail cutter. So they have a very distinctive pointed profile, with usually a flat top as the flails go along the flat top, and then pointed sides as the guy's driven along with the tractor there. Alternatively, you've got the far more rural hedges where they've just been let loose, and you can see that's really what I'm aiming for with this. Hacking away a little bit willy-nilly with the scissors. Probably best not to use the best scissors in the house for this sort of thing, but something reasonably sharp, because this is quite dense material, this stuff. And there we are. Already my hedge is looking a little bit more natural, shall we say. However, it's still also a funny colour. Well, it's a nice standard colour. I mean, to be fair, there's quite a lot of different greens in here, which makes it a particularly good product to work with to start with. But I like to add a little bit more variety still. And so what I've got is a can of hairspray and a few packs of, I think these are Woodland Scenics flock powders. I find it quite useful to use these sort of these sort of tubs from the local Chinese, if I'm honest, to put these sort of things in. Just keeps them under control. And there we have it, a couple of packs of flock, coarse flock and fine flock. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my hedge a quick spray, and then sprinkle a little bit of flock powder on it as well. Adds a bit of colour there. And put my PVA back down. There we are, looking a bit better already. But that's great. My hedge can get smaller, but what happens if you want a bit more bulk to your hedge? Because you often see them get quite chunky in places, and this is where you put you find the coarser flock. Great way of building up the hedge profile, and you can work this all the way along until you've got some more attractive and interesting undergrowth than the stuff straight out of the packet. Again, so nothing wrong with the stuff straight out of the packet if you're doing gardens and that sort of thing where people have clipped them nicely. But here we are, we're just adding a bit more life to a railway. Oh yeah, simple 5 minutes worth of work. However, there is a bit more to hedging. You didn't think I'd get away with it quite so quickly on this film. Now, if you want a really, really coarse hedge, then one of the materials to look at, again available from many scenery suppliers, is this stuff, which is what we call rubberized horsehair. Now you'd find this in a lot of old furniture, and certainly if you go to an upholstery supplier, they will sell you enormous sheets of it. That makes the model railway suppliers a bit more practical because you really don't need a 6x4 sheet very often for your layout. And this is great because again, you can cut it with scissors to make it about the right size for your hedge, but it's especially good for 7mm modelers. Because obviously, you know, this is lovely in 4mm, it'll look great, but in 7mm you want a bit more detail. And so you need to start considering how a hedge actually grows. A hedge isn't just a single plant. What it is it's a number of trees that are all sat next to each other and they've all intermingled. So what I'm going to do to represent that in a 7mm form is I'm going to take some tree trunks, or in this case brown painted cocktail sticks, and I'm going to use those as the basis of my hedge. Now you can see I've got quite a nice hill here, it's quite a steep hill, and bear in mind that the tree trunks, even on the steep hill, will grow vertically. A little bit of PVA on the bottom of that one, and I'm just drilling holes in my hill and poking the trunks in. To be honest, I don't really need the glue. They'll stick quite nicely as they are. That one's a bit long, so I'll just snap that off with my fingers. Don't worry about the pointy bits. If you're really worried, you can pull the pointy bits off at this stage, but we're about to cover them up with rubberized horsehair. There we go. Okay, there we are. There's my tree trunks. And this will be the hedge. Now it's quite wide. Again, worth looking at the widths of hedges. Some are very, very wide. Now garden ones, obviously you tend to keep them fairly thin because otherwise you give up all your flower beds to those. And that's trimmed, but it's still like the pre-made hedge. It's still a bit regular, so we'll just trim it a little bit more topiary. You can cut it into attractive shapes if you're feeling like you need to do something a bit more artistic, but I'm just hacking mine around so it looks a bit random. A little bit more glue on top of the trunks. And then push that on top. Don't push it all the way down because then you can actually see the gaps under the hedges. Again, the hedges and the undergrowth home to an awful lot of wildlife, and it's worth thinking about that. So you want it because you don't want to hide all the fact that you've just put a load of trunks in there. Let's do a little bit more, got a couple more here, so let's use them up. And again, you can see that this is a really easy and quick way of making sure that your hedges follow the landscape, because obviously hedges do follow the landscape, and so unless you've got completely flat baseboards, which I certainly don't recommend because that certainly doesn't look natural, a little bit more of that, and a little bit more glue. I'm just going to cheat and move that one there so that me horsehair has got something to grab hold of. Now you could paint this stuff brown, but if I'm honest, it's not a bad base colour already. I'm assuming of course that you are modelling in the summer, which is of course the most popular period of the year for layouts to be modelled. If you're doing it in winter, it's a much more complicated task, and at that point I do recommend you go and look at some hedges just to see how difficult that's going to be. Cheat slightly, I'm going to tilt my baseboard back. A little bit of grass on, a little bit of scatter on there. I think, in fact, that's looking nice. In fact, I've got another colour down here. Let's just add a bit more colour. You can see this is all pretty messy work, but do the back of the hedge as well. It's all pretty messy work, but it's all good fun and a surprisingly quick way of making changes to your layout. There we go. And there we have it. Instant hedgerow. Who says modelling needs to take time? Now, I mean, I've done this really quickly. You can obviously spend a bit more time if you want. Here's another one I did earlier. This is on the scene we did last year in BRM, and obviously the hedge is made in exactly the same way. I've just spent a bit more time cutting and forming it, and I've tried to make it look reasonably neat because we're obviously in a garden situation. So the neater, more single colour hedge is much more appropriate. But there we are. Nice, simple, quick and easy method of adding a bit of life to your layout, and hopefully again using very few materials, so nothing that should scare anybody off. Hope this helps you. I look forward to seeing lots of hedges appearing on layouts soon.